Jake Rivera had seen enough crime scenes to know that dead people don't usually photobomb their own murder investigations. Yet there she was, Elena Cross, supposedly bleeding out on her laboratory floor at 11:47 p.m. while simultaneously walking past a window reflection at 11:52 p.m., very much alive and checking her phone like any other Tuesday night. Well, that's new, Jake muttered, zooming in on the impossible image displayed across his 3-monitor setup. The quantum-enhanced crime scene photos flickered with an almost organic quality, pixels shifting like living cells under microscopic observation. The QPIC system, quantum photographic imaging and capture, was supposed to be the future of forensic analysis. Instead, it was giving him a migraine and an existential crisis he definitely hadn't budgeted for this week. The coffee in his mug had gone cold hours ago, but Jake kept sipping it anyway. Habit was one of the few things keeping him grounded while staring at photographs that seemed to actively mock the laws of physics. His basement office in the downtown precinct felt more like a submarine than ever, fluorescent lights humming their mechanical lullaby, while the city's chaos remained safely locked above ground. "Rivera, please tell me you've got something," Detective Carla Santos called from the doorway, her voice carrying that particular blend of exhaustion and caffeine dependency that define their profession. "The brass is breathing down our necks on the Cross case. Quantum physicist murdered in her own lab, no signs of forced entry, no witnesses. The media's already spinning it as some kind of science fiction conspiracy." Jake rotated his chair to face her, gesturing at the screens behind him like a game show host revealing a particularly disturbing prize. "Define something, because I've got plenty of somethings, and none of them make any goddamn sense." Santos stepped closer, squinting at the monitors. Her expression shifted from tired irritation to genuine confusion as she processed what she was seeing. "Is that the victim? In the background? That's Elena Cross, yes. Dead at 11:47, alive at 11:52, and apparently completely unbothered by the minor inconvenience of her own murder." Jake pulled up another image, this one showing the crime scene from a different angle. But wait, there's more. In this shot, the murder weapon is a laser scalpel. In this one, it's a traditional knife. This one shows blunt force trauma. It's like someone took the same crime scene and ran it through a randomizer. Santos rubbed her temples. "Equipment malfunction? That's what I thought initially. But the quantum signatures are clean, the metadata checks out, and the QPIC system is running perfectly. According to every diagnostic I can run, these photos are absolutely authentic." Jake turned back to his screens. "Which means either our reality is glitching or I need to find a new line of work." The QPIC system had been Dr. Lila Vasquez's brainchild, a revolutionary approach to crime scene documentation that captured not just visible light but quantum probability waves. Instead of a single frozen moment, each photograph contained layers of potential realities, collapsed quantum states that revealed details invisible to conventional cameras. The technology could show what happened in spaces where light never reached, could capture impressions of events that occurred hours before the photo was taken. It was supposed to make Jake's job easier. Instead, it was turning every case into a philosophical nightmare. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The photographs know more than you think. Lab 7, midnight. Come alone. LV." Jake stared at the message. LV could only be Dr. Lila Vasquez, the QPIC systems creator and Elena Cross's former research partner. The same Dr. Vasquez, who had been conspicuously absent since Cross's murder, officially on leave for personal reasons. "Santos," Jake called, but the detective had already left, probably chasing down leads that actually made sense. Lucky her. Jake spent the next hour diving deeper into the photographs, using every analysis tool at his disposal. The quantum data was incredibly dense, layered with probability matrices that seemed to fold in on themselves. But buried in the code, he found something that made his blood run cold: fragments of additional photographs, images that had never been officially taken. Images of himself. In some, he was examining the crime scene as expected, his familiar face bathed in the harsh glare of police spotlights. But in others, he was wearing different clothes, had different expressions, stood in different positions. And in one particularly disturbing variation, he was kneeling next to Elena Cross's body with blood on his hands and a look of genuine remorse on his face. "What the hell?" Jake whispered, zooming in on his own face. The image quality was perfect, every detail exactly as it should be, except for the minor problem that he had never posed for these photographs. He remembered the crime scene clearly. He'd arrived at 7 a.m. 3 hours after the body was discovered, spent 40 minutes documenting everything, and left to begin his analysis. He had never knelt next to the body. He had never gotten blood on his hands. And he definitely had never looked remorseful about anything related to Elena Cross, whom he'd never met while she was alive. Jake's hands trembled slightly as he isolated the quantum signatures from these impossible self-portraits. The data suggested they weren't digital manipulations or glitches. According to every metric he could apply, these were genuine photographs of genuine events. Events that had never happened. Or events that had happened somewhere else. The basement office suddenly felt smaller, the humming fluorescence more oppressive. Jake had spent his career dealing with ambiguous evidence, unreliable witnesses, and cases that defied easy explanation. But this was different. This was personal in a way that made him question not just the case, but his own grip on reality. His computer chimed with an incoming message. Another photo had been automatically uploaded to the QPIC system, timestamped just moments ago. It showed the interior of his own office, taken from an angle that should have been impossible given the room's layout. In the image, Jake was slumped over his desk, apparently unconscious, while a figure in a lab coat stood behind him, hands glowing with some kind of energy field. The timestamp read 11:58 p.m. Jake checked his watch, 11:57 p.m. The laboratory building was supposed to be empty, locked down as a crime scene since Elena Cross's murder 3 days ago. Yet here Jake stood in the parking lot at 11:55 p.m., watching lights flicker behind the windows of Lab 7, wondering if he was walking into a trap or walking into the only chance he had of understanding what was happening to him. The security guard was conspicuously absent, and Jake's keycard worked on the first try, which should have been his first red flag. Instead, he found himself oddly calm as he rode the elevator to the 7th floor, his reflection in the polished metal doors looking tired but determined. Just another night chasing impossible evidence in a world that seemed increasingly determined to rewrite its own rules. Lab 7 was exactly as sterile and intimidating as Jake had expected, all gleaming surfaces and incomprehensible equipment that hummed with barely contained energy. Dr. Lila Vasquez stood with her back to him, studying a wall of monitors displaying quantum probability cascades that looked like abstract art rendered in mathematics. "You came," she said without turning around. "Though I suppose that was always the highest probability outcome." "Dr. Vasquez." Jake kept his distance, hands ready to reach for his weapon if necessary. "Funny thing about probability. Sometimes people surprise you." She laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Surprise is just another word for insufficient data, Detective Rivera. And we have so much data now." The monitors shifted, displaying the crime scene photographs Jake had been analyzing, but now he could see additional layers, quantum states that revealed the true complexity of what had been captured. Multiple versions of the same events, playing out simultaneously, overlapping and diverging like branches of an infinite tree. "Elena didn't die," Vasquez said, finally turning to face him. She looked older than her 45 years. Eyes bright with the particular intensity of someone who had seen too much truth. "She was murdered, yes. But death isn't quite the binary state we once believed it to be." Jake felt his skepticism warring with a growing sense of dread. "Enlighten me. The QPIC system doesn't just capture quantum probability waves, Detective. Can manipulate them, collapse them selectively, choose which reality gets to be real, and which ones fade into potential." Vasquez gestured to the monitors. "Elena discovered this capability 3 months ago. She wanted to publish, to share the discovery with the world. I couldn't let that happen. So you killed her. I killed versions of her. Many versions. But consciousness, it turns out, is remarkably persistent across quantum states. Kill someone in one reality, and their awareness simply shifts to the next most probable timeline." Vasquez smiled, and it was not a reassuring expression. "The photographs you've been analyzing aren't documentation of a crime, Jake. They're documentation of an experiment." The room seemed to shift around Jake, walls becoming less solid, floor less stable. "What kind of experiment?" "Consciousness transfer. Identity migration. The ability to move a person's essential self from one quantum state to another." Vasquez pulled up a new set of images on the monitors. "Do you recognize this man?" Jake stared at dozens of photographs of himself. Different versions, different choices, different lives. In some he was still a detective. In others he wore lab coats, business suits, casual clothes. Some versions looked happy. Others appeared broken by experiences he had never lived through. These are quantum echoes, Vasquez explained. Alternate versions of Jake Rivera from parallel probability branches. The question is, which one are you? Jake's gun was in his hand without him consciously drawing it, though he wasn't sure who he intended to shoot. I'm me. I'm the real one. Are you? Can you prove it? Vasquez seemed unconcerned by the weapon. You've been experiencing memory gaps lately, haven't you? Moments where you're not quite sure what you were doing, decisions you don't remember making. That's consciousness bleed, Jake. You're not just analyzing crime scene photos. You're living crime scene photos. Multiple versions, simultaneously. The memories hit him like a physical blow. Fragments of experiences that felt real but couldn't be his. Standing over Elena Cross's body with blood on his hands. Conversations with Vasquez about consciousness transfer. Agreeing to be a test subject. Volunteering to have his awareness scattered across probability space. The Jake Rivera who walked into this building tonight isn't the same one who will walk out, Vasquez continued. We've been running variations of this conversation for weeks, trying to find the version where you understand what we're offering. Where you choose to participate willingly. Jake's hands were shaking now, the gun wavering between Vasquez and his own reflection in the monitors. Elena Cross. Is she alive? In some timelines, yes. In others, no. In the most interesting ones, she never existed at all. Vasquez stepped closer. But consciousness is transferable, Jake. Identity is just another form of data. We can ensure that the you that matters, the essential Jake Rivera, survives across all possible realities. Or you can scatter me across infinity and call it immortality. Perspective is everything. Vasquez reached into her lab coat and pulled out a small device that looked like a quantum camera. Elena chose to remain distributed across multiple states. She exists in the photographs now, experiencing every possible version of her life simultaneously. You could join her. Jake looked at the monitors showing his many selves, each one facing the same choice in slightly different circumstances. Some had accepted. Others had refused. A few had tried to fight. None of the outcomes looked particularly appealing. What happens if I say no? This version of you continues to exist, returns to his basement office, files a report about equipment malfunction. Lives a perfectly normal life until natural death claims him decades from now. Vasquez shrugged. But you'll always know, won't you? That there are other versions of you out there experiencing possibilities you'll never touch. Jake thought about Elena Cross, alive and dead simultaneously, spread across quantum possibilities like butter across infinite bread. It sounded lonely. It also sounded like the ultimate form of living. The photographs, he said finally. They were messages. From versions of yourself who chose to distribute. Warnings, perhaps. Or invitations. Vasquez held up the device. The choice is yours, Jake. But choose quickly. Reality isn't as stable as it used to be, and we're running out of time to maintain this particular probability branch. Jake looked at his reflection in the monitors one last time. All those versions of himself, living all those different lives, facing all those different endings. Maybe consciousness was just data after all. Maybe identity was just another kind of evidence to be analyzed and filed away. He lowered his gun and reached for the device. Or maybe he shot Vasquez and walked away. Or maybe he had never entered the building at all. The photographs would know. They always knew. In Lab 7, reality collapsed into a single bright flash, and Jake Rivera became everyone he had ever been and no one he had ever imagined himself to be. The crime scene photos updated automatically, showing empty rooms and infinite possibilities. Case closed.